All right, classic here at the Wefunder House with Read Ezell. He is our Nashville representative on the BD team. Just taking a moment to start to get to know the folks here a lot more, personally for me as well as for everyone out there. So, we're on this quest to humanize the brand more. These will be the folks that you'll be having conversations with as you get to know Nashville more, as you get to know Wefunder more. So, first and foremost, in regards to Wefunder, what are you working on?
Yeah, my title right now is Nashville City Lead. So I'm focused exclusively on Nashville. I'm a Nashville native. I really believe in the city and the way that it's growing, and I also believe in what WeFunder can bring to the entrepreneurial community here. So basically, I'm focused on building a little sonic boom of Reg CF here in Nashville. We want to make sure that founders here are using every tool at their disposal, and Reg CF is a really powerful one. As Nashville changes, we hope that WeFunder can play a big role there, and we want to use Nashville as a place to model what it looks like to really invest in a community, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in other places around the country to fulfill WeFunder's mission, which is making sure that founders anywhere can take their shot.
And you've always been on the entrepreneurial side of things.
I don't really identify as a founder, but I was talking to Johnny, Johnny Price, and he kind of told me, "Yeah, you are." I guess I kind of came from a more corporate consulting background, but I feel like even in those settings, I was always trying to like build something new. It was like whether it was opening up a new market or like a new market, a new office in a new country, or focusing on building a new pipeline for business development at the consulting firm I worked for. And then since I've been back in Nashville now for about 3 years, I've helped to found two different social impact initiatives. One of them was focused on kind of preserving the political center and dialogue and a healthy space for political plurality in Tennessee and the country at large. And the other more recently is about trying to bring a guaranteed basic income to Nashville. But I believe that a good idea is worth investing in, and I've never really thought of myself as a founder, but I guess I have always been starting something.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of that is more so just community in general.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably don't view themselves as founders. Of course, we're in this new space now where everybody wants to build a company, get some funding and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we've all had some sort of entrepreneurial experience. Whether it was we just had this thing that we were trying to offload to friends and family, or we had friends and family that we wanted to help. And it sounds like you're really big and driven by the helping side, creating opportunities for folks to be able to do a little bit more.
Yeah, personally, I believe that like income inequality and the racial wealth gap is like the biggest problem we have as a country. It's holding us all back. I think investing in bridging that gap and in making sure that access to capital is like more democratized, is kind of merit based rather than network based as much as possible. I don't think it's impossible to remove the power of networks from these things, but I just think that's the way the country will grow. I think that's the way we all have a better future together. And so, yeah, I've always been very mission driven. I've always been about like understanding why people misunderstand one another or why people don't trust one another, and trying to bridge that gap. And I think in this context at WeFunder, it's about like making people like letting people know that like they have the right to be able to raise money, they deserve it, and also helping investors to trust that just because a company's not coming at you through like from a venture capitalist or someone who's necessarily like done a big thing before, it like everyone deserves a chance and a look. And I think that is a really powerful idea. I think.
Where do you think that drive comes from? Is there something earlier on that you can say that experience wise kind of push you in this direction, or that you can?
I don't know. It's like hard to identify one thing. I mean, I grew up like I'm a fairly like typical on the surface like child of privilege in Nashville. I don't think there's anything to like suggest that I should feel like nothing particular about my upbringing that suggests that I should feel that this is so important. But I don't know. I just grew up around a diverse set of ideas. My parents are both entrepreneurs in different ways, and I think I just kind of grew up in a community and was lucky to be able to have some influences in my life that allowed me to see both clearly the privilege that I had and also the potential that overcoming the hurdles that exist for other people has. I just really believe in like paying it forward, and that like good things come if you work for other people. Like I said, I mean, the racial wealth gap is literally the biggest drag on our country's productivity today. Like we don't need to be inventing new industries. There's like a whole section of this country that has never been allowed to achieve its full potential, and if we allowed that to happen, like we'd be set. We'd still have a bigger economy than China. So that's where we need to be focusing right now, I think.
I wonder if it's the combining of you said you weren't necessarily an entrepreneur or a founder or anything like that, but your parents were, and so there's that experience of seeing how they're moving, seeing what they're not sure what it is that they did, but that was there right there inside of your face. On top of you saying, I remember you mentioning the religious studies and how that took you around the world. Well, I reckon that would also show you a lot of different versions of underrepresented communities, and probably there was a combination of the two over time that kind of.
I think that's true. Like I think the biggest impulse that I had when I was young was just like, I want to see more. I knew that. And maybe that just comes from having grown up in my parents weren't all from here, and we were aware of, I was aware of like social networks that even as like a wealthy white kid, like there's certain realms of like the social network that was reserved for people that had been here for several generations, right? And then like just I guess kind of using critical thinking to like extrapolate that out to other experiences. And then I was able to travel. I was really lucky to be able to travel as a young kid and see other places where there were big, very visible problems. I spent my 20s mostly in the Middle East, saw a revolution there. I worked for governments there. And I guess I was always thinking about how, in some analogous way, those same problems existed here. What brought me back to Nashville was ultimately like, I want to contribute to a community that I understand implicitly, but I also want to like be working to understand the parts of it that I didn't necessarily have exposure to. I mean, I think the religious studies thing was always about just kind of understanding the other. And I think that even like applies to Wefunder, right? Like I love talking to people about their businesses, understanding a new problem that they're trying to solve. There's nothing more exciting than like meeting some founder that's like working in some area that I have no understanding of, and then being able to offer them some value and a different perspective. Like that's just cool, And if my perspective plays some small role in their success, I love that. And if their success plays some small role in like building a bigger raft for all of us, like that's what we all need to be tracking toward.
But then there's also an even exchange as well because of that that new experience that you're kind of aiding them in with your perspective on it. Mm-hmm. It's coming back on your end as well, and you end up helping the next person because of that nuisance of information, carrying to that next person.
Yeah, we're all. I mean, working at Wefunder is like a crash course in like mini VC / entrepreneurism. Like we're kind of doing it all at the same time, right? We're helping people with their, giving them advice on their pitch deck and helping them get up and running, giving them strategic advice about how to fundraise. I actually really love just being able to provide value, whatever it is, whether that's a connection to a VC who like might actually be competition technically for Wefunder. Like I think that the part of the ethos of this company is just like we want to help people, and if we help enough people, like it'll come back around to us. And I really believe that.
Yeah. And even with the mentioning of coming back to Nashville, I was gonna tap into that as well because you're so well traveled, but you decided to focus your efforts here. I wonder if it was because there are tons of places you can kind of help and give back, but kind of makes sense to start with home first.
Yeah, I think like I grew up in Nashville. By virtue of that, I like know some people in this town just like because they were friends of friends, or friends of my parents, or friends of other people that I met through doing work here. And I don't necessarily want to stay in that. Like I'm not like you said, I've traveled a bunch. I want to live abroad again in my lifetime. I'm not like gonna stay here forever, but like starting here makes a lot of sense. Learning what works here makes a lot of sense. There's certain advantages to just like knowing the streets, I mean, and I think that makes it really exciting. Like there's no one else at Wefunder right now, or really I think in Reg CF anywhere that's just like focused on a city. And that makes it like in some ways it's harder to go find a company. There's just, you're swimming around in a much smaller pond, but like, it's possible to like build relationship. One of my favorite things that I've learned about what I noticed when we were all together in San Francisco is that like a lot of the team has never met face to face with a person that they're talking to about fundraising. Like this morning, I talked to a guy who's thinking about raising money to turn this like elevated Mexican food concept that he's got a food truck. He's like thinking about raising money on Wefunder to turn that into a brick and mortar. And then another guy who's working on like a kind of campaign tech software idea. Right. But I like met in person and then with them over coffee at the same cafe. We chatted for an hour. Like it's slower, it's more relational, but like I think that over time just like really pays dividends. It's really great to be able to get like put your hands on people, sit in front of people, and then also like we can add more value. We can create community. We can really focus on providing a really good experience for people that are raising on the platform. Yeah, and I think that's like where Wefunder can level up. Like if we could do that in 20 cities in America, and just like have a guy there that's just like, if you're gonna raise money, go talk to this person. Yeah, they'll be helpful. I just think that's a really powerful way to be. I'm excited. I hope, we don't know if this is successful, but I hope that if we have success in Nashville, it can be something that's reproduced.
Yeah, it's the opportunity for a proper energy exchange versus like, the Zoom thing is very convenient, especially over the pandemic when we really couldn't get around. You could do a little bit more, and it's like, yeah, we saved all this money because there's no flying and things, but you do miss out on that human connection that is super important, and being able to read a room, being able to read a person, making sure that this is the the best opportunity for you as well as them, because sometimes things just don't work, and you can kind of pick up on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, like this is something I think about a lot. I don't know if I necessarily achieve it all the time in my work with Wefunder, but like I never want to be selling, right? I want to be telling people about how we can help, and I think the product that we have to offer is helpful to most businesses, and so like just being able to be there and like kind of be in the struggle with someone, I think is really cool. That goes back to like the kind of way that I think I learned to relate to people in traveling, right? It was always about, you need to like go sit down with someone that you thought was as different as they can be from you, and like try to find common ground. Yes. And not always, but you generally are going to be able to find it. I think I bring the same thing to my conversations with founders. Like, just like, let's start on a human level. Like, what are you struggling with? Yeah. And that's, ultimately, let's get to a place where you're raising on Wefunder. But like, I just think starting at that human struggle level is really valuable, and I've learned a lot from it just in my short time with Wefunder.
Yeah, I think that's very important to note. Same thing with me personally. Like, I'm not a heavy direct sales person. I suck at it. Yeah. But I always thought you should lead with the information and experience first, and let people find things that resonate with them, and then they're coming to you on their own terms, and at that point is, their defense mechanisms are down because they approached you. They really see the value in what's being offered, and they're more inclined to listen even more at the point they're kind of selling themselves on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my hope is that over the next several months, like I've only been working with Wefunder for less than 3 months now. Met with a bunch of people in Nashville, and we're just starting to get to the place where people are coming to me. Or people I spoke to a month ago, or sending someone my way. And it's like, that's, that only accelerates, right? The more you invest. And I think being willing to just like start at that, like I want more startups to be successful in Nashville because I want the people in Nashville to get more out of the growth of this city, right? Right now, like if you go down to downtown Nashville, the names on all the buildings, none of those companies started here. Right? Like the way that Nashville benefits from its growth most is like if a really big startup comes from here, like starts here, grows here, becomes a unicorn here. And the way like that will only happen if like people like our team at Wefunder and many other people are just like really focused on building that ecosystem. And if that can happen once, it'll happen again, right? Sure. Like success breeds success. And I think that's really, it's important for the city of Nashville. It's also important for like, I mean, we mentioned earlier that I'm interested in like big systems, right? Like I believe that the future of our country depends on places like Nashville having unicorn type growth happening in them, right? Secondary cities have to be benefiting from innovation, or else like we as a country will just continue to become more and more polarized. And so like I see Wefunder's mission as like, let's go help a bunch of people like start businesses, but like this is about preserving entrepreneurialism in the country. It's about like making sure that America stays America, like a place that doesn't breed innovation just in Silicon Valley or just in New York City, but like it's got to come up from the people in Kansas too, and Tennessee.
Yeah, that was the idea of the American dream, like the place where you can come with your idea and turn it into something of value. And that doesn't always mean like $100 million company, $1 billion company. Sometimes success is just being able to put food in the fridge and keep a roof over your head for your family, and offer that same resource to the generation coming up after you.
One of the things that I think I say this to founders I'm talking to oftentimes, it's just like, I mean, think back to what did a good business idea look like on the frontier? Like the most American thing in, I don't know about the most American thing, but one of the most American, like archetypal American things. Like I'm going west, I'm gonna go find my dream, right? We talk about cowboys and gold rushes and everything, but really what that looked like for a lot of people is showing up in a little town, saying, "This town doesn't have a hardware store. Everybody, give me $10. I'm going to go back to St. Louis, and I'm going to come back with a bunch of hardware in 6 months' time, and then we're going to have a hardware store." Right? Like that was actually the American dream for most people, and that has to be updated to the time we live in today. And that's what Wefunder is offering to people, right? Like in a much more complicated way. I mean, not more complicated because Wefunder is complicated, but because the world is more complicated today. But like identify a need in your community and go ask your community if they see the same need. And then if they do, they'll give you money. And it's like, I mean, like it's simple. And I mean, it's more complicated, with big companies on Wefunder and everything. And like, obviously we want to do like that doesn't necessarily apply to every company, but like at the basic level, that's what we're trying to do. It's just like get us back to that archetype of like being able to identify a need execute on convincing people that you can address that need, and then people will invest in you.
Yeah.
You know?
So to end it, because we are in Nashville, of course there are tons of folks in the other cities via Wefunder, but we're focusing on Nashville. What would you tell somebody that is interested in possibly coming here to live, coming here to build their business, raise their family and whatnot? What are those selling points? Like, what makes it a great place to begin?
I mean, I think Nashville is growing quickly. It's an exciting place to be. It's a fun place to be. There's great program, like concerts and other stuff happening here all the time. But it's also an incredibly collaborative city. I think when I talk to people that move here, they're always shocked by like how willing people are to meet with you and how willing people are to like give you some time, right? Yeah. Now that comes with a little bit of trade-off. Like there's a lot of inefficiency involved in that. But like I've always said that Nashville is a place where you can come if you're interested in a thing. You can go find the 10 other people that are doing it, and they'll take a meeting with you, and you can become the 11th. Yeah. Like it's a city that's built on like hustle and collaboration. It's an incredibly welcoming place, and if you come here like and you're nice, like, and like you come with like come in peace, like with goodwill, Nashville will welcome you, and I think it's just an incredible opportunity to build, come build your thing, do it with a good quality of life, and like make some friends while you're doing it. And I think that's that is Nashville.
Awesome. Reed, thank you very much. Hopefully people take away from this that they can meet you.
Yeah. I'm available all the time.
Meet Reed for a coffee. So yeah, awesome. Good luck on your journey with continued schooling and building within this space and wherever you end up next. And yeah, super appreciate these opportunities to sit down with you and have this conversation.
Thanks for taking the time.
Awesome. All right.